Hello, my name is Michelle Herzog, and I'm the History Social Science Consultant here at the Los Angeles County Office of Education and the Director of the California Democracy School Civic Learning Initiative. The California Democracy School Initiative was funded by the S.D. Bechtel Jr. Foundation and directed by the Los Angeles County Office of Education in partnership with the Los Angeles County Education Foundation. The goal of the initiative is to institutionalize civic learning and investigative practices in high schools to prepare all students for college, career, and citizenship in the 21st century. The initiative engaged 10 high schools in Los Angeles County and 2 high schools in Orange County to work as professional learning communities to receive professional development, resources, guidance, and coaching assistance to implement effective civic learning practices in classrooms. The project strengthens existing initiatives, including the Common Core State Standards, the College, Career, and Civic Life C3 Framework for Social Studies State Standards, Partnership for 21st Century Learning, and the Campaign for the Civic Mission of Schools. This webcast is the final one in a series of professional development modules designed to provide educators with the knowledge, skills, and resources to implement high-quality civic learning in classrooms to prepare all students for college, career, and civic life in the 21st century. I hope you've had a chance to view them and use them with colleagues at your school or your district. I want to spend our time together on this final webcast to tell you about the outcomes of our project and to share some of the great insights of students, teachers, and school administrators who participated in it. And just to remind you, we spent 3 years of the project focused on systems change in schools and what would be needed to build the civic competencies of students, the school environment, and the support systems needed to be in place to strengthen and sustain civic learning for all students over time. We worked closely with school teams that consisted of classroom teachers, school site administrators, and parent representatives. In year 1, teams had the time to practice the techniques, reflect, revise, and improve their delivery. Lots of time was spent with professional development, trying things out in classrooms, receiving coaching and technical support, and participating in monthly professional learning community meetings. In year 2, school teams began to figure out ways to integrate civic learning into their school plans. These were big decisions that called for a lot of capacity building. We offered more professional development to train additional teachers. We continued to provide on-the-ground coaching and technical assistance, and teams continued to operate as professional learning communities, again, to reflect, share, and revise their work. We even offered mini-grants to allow teachers to purchase resources, curriculum materials, or even cover substitute costs to deepen and refine their work. At the end of year 2, each school showcased their great work at a huge California Democracy School showcase event that we held that year at the Richard Nixon Presidential Library in Yorba Linda, California. Year 3 was dedicated to finalizing programs and cementing them into practice through school or district policies that would sustain their work beyond the cycle of the grant. Some adopted school policies, some adopted district-wide policies, or had their boards approve new curriculums. We've all seen how great programming can quickly disappear when the champions leave schools. We wanted to be sure that all the hard work toward institutionalizing civic learning for all students would remain intact for the years to come. That's why policy was so important. So, what did we mean by civic learning? Now, for the purposes of the California Democracy School Initiative, a high-quality civic learning inquiry and investigation includes these 5 components. It begins with an inquiry that frames a public problem or issue. That leads to research and investigation by students, an opportunity for them to then engage in civil dialogue about the issues and to come to some conclusions based on evidence. Finally, we had avenues for them to communicate conclusions and then take informed action. You can find each of these modules and lots of other valuable resources for institutionalizing civic learning at your school at our website listed below. So were we successful? You won't believe how exciting it was to see each of our 12 schools exceed our wildest expectations. Take a look at what each of our schools accomplished. It's really interesting. Every one of them have instituted the civic inquiry and investigation model across an entire grade span. Some in history classes, some in English classes, and some in government classes. And in most cases, schools didn't even stop there, but added it in a number of other courses and classes as well. So, for example, Bellflower Middle School High School has instituted civic learning for every student every year in grades 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Fantastic. Some schools like Culver City High School, Glendale High School, Santa Monica High School added it to a 9th grade freshman course. In our alternative sites, Cesar Chavez Alternative School in Compton and our LACOE Juvenile Hall Camp for girls, Scott Scudder, civic learning is embedded across the curriculum for all students. It's wonderful to see that in action. Juan Cabrillo High School in Long Beach has embedded civic inquiry into the course curriculum for all 11th grade history courses, and they're looking to spread it throughout the district, a big district. Our friends in Orange County at Loara and Savannah High Schools in the Anaheim Union High School District and Workman High School and Hacienda La Puente School District have civic learning built into existing curriculums at 2 or more grade levels. Students are having multiple experiences to learn, practice, and engage in great civic learning practices. So we're beginning to get a lot of inquiries from other schools in California and even across the nation who want to replicate the model. And we're excited to share it with them. And to help us share our work in a meaningful way, we invited Dr. Tiffany Berry, the Associate Director of the Claremont Evaluation Center at Claremont Graduate University, to conduct a study to identify the structures that need to be in place for institutionalizing civic learning instructional practices across schools. The results of her study will help us better inform schools and districts as they make plans to begin this work. And I'm very pleased to have Tiffany in the studio with us today to discuss some of her findings. Welcome, Tiffany. Thank you for joining us.
We're very happy to be here today.
Give our audience a little background on how you conducted the study.
Well, we really wanted to make sure that we comprehensively investigated the California Democracy School project. So we used a range of different types of methods. This included inviting every teacher across the initiative, across the 12 schools, to participate in a survey. We did intensive case studies at 6 of the 12 schools, which included interviewing teachers, interviewing administrators, actually going into the classroom to see what's happening in the classroom, and then also asked every student who was part of the initiative to take a survey about not only their experiences in the initiative, but also their experiences with civic inquiry outside of the classroom.
Really a very comprehensive approach. It's going to give us a lot of great information to share. So at the end of the day, if you could just summarize, what were the big takeaways? What is it that we really want schools to know, to do, to understand if they want to make a difference and truly institutionalize civic learning?
Well, when we looked at the data, there were a number of really big issues that seemed to come to the forefront. First and foremost, strong administrator support is key to institutionalization. When teachers felt that they had strong support from their administrator, they were able to work more effectively within their professional learning community to put systems in place to support civic inquiry at their schools. Another one that was also really critical was release time. When there was time for teachers to have shared release time, so they can work together, they could plan collaboratively and really put a school-wide system in place, that also facilitated institutionalization.
So I'm really glad that you focus on this aspect of leadership, because traditionally, when we're trying to introduce civic learning in schools, it tends to be from more of a organic grassroots effort, starting with teachers. And we know that unfortunately, in a lot of cases, teachers may leave, there goes the initiative, there goes the work, or they reach obstacles if they don't have some of that leadership support. And I know that sort of came out too in your study, teachers who felt they did not quite have the leadership support. What were some of the things they were telling you?
Well, so for the teachers who indicated that they didn't have the kind of support they needed, they were less likely to have the opportunity to engage in high quality practices in the classroom, less likely to feel really supported by their administrator, less likely to actually have the capacity to use civic inquiry in the classroom. So they really struggled if they didn't have that administrator support, whereas the teachers who did have the administrator support really felt like they had the the leadership that would support their decisions both in the classroom and outside of the classroom.
And I remember in my teaching days, it's wonderful. You come to school with an exciting new idea, and if you're not given permission to find innovative ways to work it in, to integrate it in your curriculum, it's very stifling and can be really difficult. So this leadership piece is
I think
huge.
it's critical. And it's something that we've seen across years. So last year it was identified also as kind of the number one thing that teachers needed in order to implement effectively. So if you're thinking about institutionalization and even sustaining the California Democracy School project across years, across time, then that strong leadership support, both from the district and from the principal level, is going to be key. At least that's what the teachers are saying.
And we saw that too when districts move forward with policies, resolutions, curriculum adoption. You're going to have an increased sustainability, I think, over time.
That's right. That's right. But what was interesting is that schools' approaches to institutionalization were also important. So when schools adopted a scaffolded approach to civic inquiry, where they consciously built in opportunities for students to study civic education across years, across levels, we saw higher levels of institutionalization because the teachers were able to build on what they had learned, what the students had learned in the previous years, thereby extending their student learning and development. So we would really recommend using some kind of multi-year scaffolded approach if the project is to be rolled out at additional schools across the country.
So don't wait till 12th grade, one semester class.
Well, you just saw that the students and the teachers, the depth of their projects were so much greater if they were able to kind of understand what they had already done, what they had already engaged in, and then could build upon that versus kind of starting fresh in 12th grade.
And yes, this was just focused on high schools, but I'll tell you, in the larger field, a lot of folks in the civic community, including my dear departed friend and mentor, Roy Erickson, used to say, let's start in kindergarten.
Sure.
Young children understand these concepts at a very young age. And so that's the ideal dream if it's kind of scaffolded up from there. So
Yeah.
that's terrific.
I think another piece that also really bore out as important was the professional development that was offered by LACOE. Teachers who felt confident in their capacity to use the civic inquiry practices were more likely to actually use them in practice. So providing that consistent professional development support that builds and maintains that capacity is really key. And then the final thing that really came out with the project was the role of the professional learning community. It was through the professional learning communities that the teachers and schools were able to plan together and work together to put their civic inquiry into action. So ensuring that these are implemented as part of some type of future rollout will be really key.
So what I'm hearing as far as recommendations, leadership, an important piece.
High quality professional development, setting up structures for release time and other time to intentionally and meaningfully collaborate.
Trying to scaffold things up along the way. Key things for And these are things a lot of us in education have known, whether you're institutionalizing Common Core or STEM or any type of new initiative.
Sure.
These are systems pieces. So It's interesting that your actual research bore that out too in your own work.
And it wasn't just from one perspective. It was based on, teachers' perspective, administrators' perspective, our own observations, going out and seeing what's in the classroom and what's happening and how it's being rolled out, that kind of triangulated across these different recommendations.
Yeah. Were there any surprises? Did you come across anything that would be especially valuable for folks who are interested in replicating this model?
Well, it was interesting that a number of teachers told us how scary it was to kind of put the classroom in the hands of the students and engage in student-led discussion and dialogue. But at the end of the day, the students really enjoyed the open classroom environments. We saw from our survey data that in classrooms where teachers used debate and dialogue more regularly, students had higher levels of engagement in their classrooms and in their learning. When classes were more interactive and involved fewer lectures, this was really fun and engaging for students. And promisingly, when teachers used civic inquiry practices more often, students felt better equipped to engage in civic inquiry practices outside of the classroom.
That's gold.
So it's really interesting that, they really mentioned how scary it was, but then as soon as they did it, they were so happy they did it. Their students were more engaged. They were more likely to engage in or report engaging in civic inquiry practices, not only in the classroom, but more likely outside of the classroom.
And did you see this generally across all of our schools? Because a lot of these schools are incredibly diverse, have a lot of underrepresented groups.
Well, all of the data included all 6 schools. We didn't have the sample size to disaggregate, within each school or within each 12, but collapsed across. These were the patterns that we saw.
Interesting, interesting. And I love how you talk about these things being transferred and the student engagement piece. I think that it'd be interesting to see other research, how then that transfers to issues around retention, dropout rates, reduced discipline issues. We all know when kids are engaged, interested, have a reason
Connected
to come to school, it spills over into other parts of their lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's great. Wonderful findings. I'm so excited to share
Well,
that.
it was a pleasure to work with LACOE and to evaluate this project, and hopefully it does get rolled out in more schools.
Yeah, me too. So anyway, I want to extend my deep gratitude to you and your team for dedicating your expertise to this work. You've given us so much valuable information and insights on effective ways for schools to take this model, scale it up, replicate it, to be an essential part, not an add-on, not something that's supplemental, but really integrated and woven into a part of every child's education. Your findings will help us do that.
It was my pleasure. I was thrilled to be a part of the project.
So I'd like to turn our attention now to some insights we gathered from those on the ground level, administrators, school board members, teachers, and students who were intimately involved in the project. And at this time, I want to introduce a dear friend, inspiring instructional leader, my good friend Michael Mitsuda, who's the superintendent of the Anaheim Union High School District. Michael has 2 schools who have just been awarded as California Democracy Schools. Michael, thanks for joining me today.
It's an honor to be here, Michelle.
Your district, Anaheim Union High School District, jumped in with both feet. Lawara High School has successfully implemented high-quality civic learning in all 11th grade U.S. history classes and all 12th grade government economics classes. It's wonderful. All of the 6 proven practices of the Guardian of Democracy report are explicitly taught in all grades, 9 through 12, and they even do a civics fair every year. It's wonderful stuff. And at Savannah High School, you've got more going on there too. Civic learning's conducted in all the 11th grade U.S. history and all the 12th grade government economics classes. They're also working to embed civic learning inquiries into all their 10th grade world history classes. It goes on and on. Both schools have civic learning in their single plans for student achievement, their school accountability report cards, senior capstone projects, full blown. And at the district level, a resolution was adopted by your school board to support civic learning as well. And to my knowledge, your district is one of the first ones I've seen that explicitly includes civic learning in your local control accountability plan. That's gold. We're so excited to hear that. So Michael, it's remarkable. So we want to start by asking you, first of all, tell us a little bit about the demographics of your district and what initially drew you to want to be in this initiative. Why did you want your schools to become California democracy schools?
You know, I think, first of all, our demographics are very urban. Even though we're in the shadow of Disneyland, we have 65% Latino, 20 to 25% English learner. We have a very large proportion of our kids are Title I. We are a Title I district. And we have a large number of homeless. Those are McKinney-Vento students, about 15% or 4,500. So our district is a large 7 through 12 district with encompassing 5 cities in kind of the donut hole of Orange County. So very urban, a lot of challenges, a lot of poverty, a lot of mental health and depression issues, and increasing hopelessness. And I think that's why the Democracy School Project is so important, because everybody talks about the achievement gap. Well, we have a democracy gap in many of our urban areas, urban core areas in this country. So very vital that our kids have exposure to these types of experiences.
Yeah, and I'm glad you explained the demographics a little, because most people think of Anaheim, you know, associated with Disneyland, but you really got a very diverse society, population there, and trying to serve a lot of needs of different kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also have a lot of refugees. We are sort of the hub in Orange County for a lot of Syrian and Middle Eastern refugees coming in, a lot of the Vietnamese, and there's about 50 languages spoken in our district. So it is also a gateway for immigrants to learn about democracy in America.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So, okay, it's been 3 years now. We're through with the initiative pretty much. Can you describe for us, was it worth it? It was a lot of hard work. What have you seen as some of the benefits, first of all, for your students and their families? What are they saying?
There have been huge benefits because many of these issues that are very engaging, naturally engaging to them, have been brought into the schools and classrooms. For example, we, as we mentioned, we're in the shadow of a resort area. There's a lot of what they call short-term rental housing. And overnight, we have seen many of these houses converted into short-term rentals. This issue was brought to us and to parents and to our school board by students. They were doing presentations because of the concern about the effects of short-term rentals on their neighborhoods, overnight turning over into little mini motels. Now, the other issue that they're addressing is the issue of human trafficking, teenage prostitution that is growing as a result of this. The junior high group brought in the issue of this whole concept, which I wasn't familiar with, called food deserts. And a food desert is an area in the barrio that is a desert as far as access to nutrition and healthy foods. So they're educating their parents, they're educating us and their communities, and I think it's very empowering.
And we know traditionally some of the demographic groups you're mentioning are hesitant to jump into some of these issues that many see as controversials. Let's lay low, let's not speak up, a lot of concerns. But you're seeing your kids across the board really stepping into these discussions.
Yeah, I think the
steps.
training is so important, Michelle, with the teachers, to give them confidence to bring these issues in that are naturally engaging for the kids. And as you know, the research has shown that throughout America, the student engagement is actually declining. And I think this democracy initiative is going to give teachers the capacity to bring issues that are engaging, naturally engaging, straight into the classroom. So our kids will have a lot more opportunities to really get their heads wrapped around these issues.
And a lot of schools are hesitant to dive into that area because it's sensitive, it's controversial. I remember visiting schools and talking with parents and saying, so how does it feel to have your child navigating these complex systems and addressing these tough issues? And time after time, they said, we really like it. We really like that our kids are learning about both sides of issues.
Absolutely.
And they pay attention particularly to the way it's being done. So they're not getting a bias one way or another. It's an open, it's an investigative process where they're looking at all points of view. So I think the how we address these issues with young people is an important piece too.
Absolutely, and I think because it does also allow more oral discourse in the classroom with so many English learners and long-term English learners, that is huge to bring into the classroom and giving them the skills, the experience to really come out of their shells and practice the language of English.
Yes, and I know you're very active in the English learner community, and any opportunities we have for kids to practice academic language, oral, written, this gives them something relevant to talk about, to write about, to read about.
That's right.
So Savannah High School has been identified as a Partnership for 21st Century Learning National Exemplar School. We all know you've been the driving force of the P21 effort here in California, and it is something you are immersing your schools in, your entire district in. So talk to us a little, how does this civics initiative align to the vision and goals of P21?
It's a great alignment. First of all, as you know, P21 is all about the 4 C's: communication, creativity, critical thinking, and collaboration. And in Anaheim, we've added the 5th C, character, empathy building, which I think is very important. But all of those 4 C's, in terms of the performance task and the types of oral discourse with the projects that are going on in the civic education movement, are all embedded, right, in those performance task assessments. So it is a beautiful alignment. The other piece that P21 talks about is really what type of skills and knowledge are the next generation of Americans going to need in order for us as a country to compete globally. And the knowledge is really about the knowledge of the world, that what's happening across the Middle East, across Africa, across Asia, and looking at multiple perspectives, which is another piece of embedded in the inquiry process. The issue of the environment and how that affects our generation of kids, which is huge, right? That's probably the number one issue facing them. The issue of civic and economic literacy and financial literacy. These are all really vital issues for us to embed in a K-12 education so we can have an educated workforce and democratic citizenry if we are going to compete worldwide.
Yeah, and we know that civic literacy is called out in the P21 effort as well.
Absolutely.
So it's not just soft skills on their own, it's tied to issues and content that are relevant. So what better way than to go through civic engagement activities?
Absolutely. The other thing I'd like to point out too is that P21 is not about another big test. A lot of what we're talking about are authentic projects, engaging activities through the content and applied to real world problems. This is where the P21 folks are really emphasizing that's needed in the classroom.
So a few weeks ago, we held our California Democracy School Civic Learning Showcase at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. This was a huge event that showcased the great work of all 12 of our democracy schools. We took the opportunity to interview some of the folks who had been involved in the project. And so at this point, I'd like to share some other perspectives from a few of the principals who've been also very much involved. Michael Lundgren is the principal of Bellflower Middle School High School. This school recently received the California Civic Learning Award of Excellence from our California Chief Justice, Cantil Sakayue, and State Superintendent Tom Torlakson. And I also want you to hear some comments from Kim Humphreys, who's the principal of the Los Angeles County Office of Education Road to Success Academy for incarcerated girls at the Juvenile Hall Camp Scott and Scudder. They're going to talk about the impact of civic learning on students and their school community. So let's hear what they have to say.
Hello, I'm Michael Lundgren. I'm the principal of Bellflower High School. And I want to tell you this 3-year journey we have been on with the civic democracy has changed the culture of my school dramatically. I see my students inspired to become involved, to make a change and to make a difference in their community. And it is very exciting to be part of it. And I thank everyone involved.
It's empowered them. A lot of our girls come to us and they have abuse histories that are horrible. And so I think that it's given them a voice. It's shown them that they can take action when things are not going their way in their communities. It's helped them to be self-advocates. So when something is happening to them that they don't like, that they don't agree with, we're showing them how to take action, how to empower themselves and their communities and their families. And we hope that this skill will transfer with them when they leave us. And so they will be more civic-minded individuals when they leave us.
So these are pretty powerful messages, Michael, I think you'd agree. And I've heard some of your site administrators convey some of the same ideas about the impact. What are you hearing from your principals?
Absolutely. I think that our principals are very supportive of the initiative because it's teaching kids what democracy practices look like in the schools, meaning that they have a voice and in terms of trying to come out with some of the solutions. For example, everybody's talking about the school-to-prison pipeline and the need to bring in restorative practices. Well, because the students are helping to inform parents and community and teachers about what that means and why we're doing that, it's really moving the culture of our schools along in terms of why we are doing this, why we're making the move. And so the administrators really appreciate that piece.
So are they seeing a shift in the flavor, the culture of their school campuses?
Oh, absolutely, because oftentimes when, for example, something like restorative practices, if that were to be imposed, which it is an important piece we want ownership of, but if it were to be imposed, there would be natural resistance. And because the students are understanding what that means and how powerful that is in terms of problem solving, conflict resolution, understanding the deeper issues, they are informing some of the reluctant folks, staff members, for example, about why we need to do that. And that is helping to change the culture of our schools.
So what the kids are doing is even shifting perspectives of teachers and helping the principal move the school to another place of ownership for kids and teachers as well.
Absolutely. So there are many examples where I believe that democratic practices and modeling are changing not only the kids but the adults as well. So in terms of our schools becoming more democratic, more community-based, more owning what education should be, right? Education should be working for kids in their communities, not the other way around. And that's the shift that we're seeing.
So I want to also share with you some thoughts conveyed by our own LACOE superintendent, Dr. Arturo Delgado, and a member of our LACOE school board, Mr. Douglas Boyd. Let's watch what they have to say.
It's wonderful to be here today. Civic learning, wow. Why is it important for our young people in particular? It has everything to do with our future as a nation. We know that education is important overall in our country in order to have a good citizenry in our population. But a lot of people forget that our democracy is built on young people who understand their role as a citizen. And of course, voting is one piece of that, but there's so many ways to give back to a community when they become civically minded. And so these projects that we see here today, the wonderful examples of wonderful student work, I think it just speaks volumes of how great our schools are emphasizing the right things for our young people, getting them involved in their communities, getting them involved in politics that may involve their lives, and being able to influence that as a young person is so critical today. So we're very happy to be here. Thank you for joining us.
Studies and polls consistently show that young Americans are the least involved Americans in civics, in voting and participation in our democracy. This program and many others done by LACOE bring importance and relevance to the process and encourage kids to get involved. Encourage kids to get involved through elections, through explaining their points of view on important topics, and developing a collaborative view on not only education, but how it translates into our government. These kids here today are the leaders of tomorrow, and this program is very important in helping engage them in the process, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
So as you hear this, Michael, what advice do you have for other superintendents, school board members about their role in this work?
Well, I can't emphasize enough the importance of board members and superintendents to own this piece, as we just saw how important this is for our democracy. And some of the things that they can do at their level is to pass resolutions, as we did in Anaheim Union, and some of the other districts have done as well. Those resolutions reaffirming our commitment to democracy schools really gives the principals and the teachers cover, as you will, to move forward on these initiatives. And in California, we have a system called the LCAP, Local Control Accountability Plan, which also determines resource allotment. So we've actually embedded the Civic Education Initiative into the LCAP, ensuring that there are resources committed for continued professional development, continued civic engagement, and that it becomes an ongoing and institutionalized effort in our district.
And are you seeing too, when policymakers are prioritizing it, it's elevating the status of this, of importance of weight, along with other pieces of a child's education?
You know, it's so, everybody says, oh, another thing, but this is the thing. And I believe that all the other initiatives can line up under a democracy school initiative. Because at the end of the day, that's what's at risk, right? We're unfortunately seeing some of this stuff play out right now nationally. We need more than ever an educated workforce, an educated voter force who can critically critique some of these issues.
Beautifully said, for sure. And I think our good friend Les Francis would certainly agree with you. Les is a real champion for this. He was Deputy Chief of Staff for President Jimmy Carter in the White House. And for the past several years, he has served as the Director of Public Policy for the National Campaign for the Civic Mission of Schools in Washington, D.C. So let's hear what he has to say about this and the role of administrators.
Civic learning does not just happen automatically. It takes leadership. It takes leadership from the school district level, it takes leadership from the county level, it takes leadership at the school level, it takes teacher leadership, administrative leadership. It's not in the ether. It doesn't just happen. It is made to happen. And frankly, that's a job description of leadership. That's a job description for school administrators, superintendents, principals, school board leaders. It's their job, and they shouldn't duck it.
Yeah, I think Les is absolutely right. It takes leadership. We can only go so far from a ground-up effort if we don't have support from school administrators, superintendents, school board, all the way up. I think that's powerful. And Michael, you've been a fabulous role model in this for school leaders everywhere as a superintendent of your district, and that's why we love to have you on the program and hear your comments on this. Let's return now to our conversation with Les Francis. Mr. Francis, along with Michael Lundgren and one of our civic learning coordinators, Barbara Doughton, they spoke on an opening panel that was live cast with another panel at the Sacramento County Office of Ed at the showcase at the Reagan Library on the same day. So again, let's hear some more from Mr. Francis as he frames the importance of this work in schools to prepare students for civic life.
We're here at the Reagan Library in Simi Valley, California today, celebrating the accomplishments of 12 high schools, middle schools in the area of civic learning. It's been a great day, very important event. My message today and going forward is civic learning is crucial to the future of our republic. Someone said earlier about Ben Franklin coming out of the Constitutional Convention. He was asked by the crowd outside, "What kind of government have you given us?" And Franklin said, "A republic if you can keep it," putting the burden on the citizens to make sure that we sustain this system. That's what civic learning will help assure. And we need to do more of it. We need to do a better job of it. It's crucial to the survival of our system. We see that in 2016 during this campaign year, where people are being turned off by the politics. We got to get them back involved, caring about the system. As I said earlier, and I'm fond of saying, politics is about power, the power to make changes or keep things the same, depending on your point of view. And that comes down to numbers. Constituencies that have the numbers can affect change. Constituencies that don't have the numbers, don't mobilize, don't use their numbers, they're They're bystanders. The young generation in this country right now, those between the ages of 18 and 29, number between 75 and 80 million people. That's a lot of votes if they get out and vote. It's nothing if they don't vote.
So, Michael, you heard what he said. What's your response to that? What do you think?
I couldn't agree more with Mr. Francis. I think that he's right on, he's spot on in terms of why we have to do this, and again, looking at the national discourse. But also, I'd like to remind the audience that this is important for local discourse as well. The local school boards have a lot more to do with our kids' future than the president, or as much as the president does. So local, state, and national, more than ever, we need kids who are going to be educated adults about many of these issues impacting them.
Yeah, I think you're right. Sometimes kids want to take on big global issues, which is really exciting. But remember, former Speaker Tip O'Neill said all politics are local.
Absolutely.
City councils, school boards, that really impacts people more on the day-to-day. It's a great place to start.
Yeah.
Over and over again, we spoke with teachers to get their impressions as well of this work, how it's impacted their students, and how it's impacted them as instructional leaders. So I want to play another tape, another testimonial from Elise Smith. She's a history teacher at Bellflower Middle School, High School, and you might recognize her. She was on one of our earlier webcasts on communicating conclusions, and we asked her to describe her experience and her role in a democracy school.
I'm really glad that I have the opportunity to teach this way and to hear from my students and hear about their experiences, because learning these strategies has revolutionized how I teach in my history classroom. Learning the process, understanding that it is okay to give them the freedom to unleash the rein and allow them time and opportunity and space to explore and investigate things that matter to them, rather than dictating the education. It's allowed me to become a facilitator of learning instead of a deliverer of learning. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity. It's changed how I teach forever, and I can't wait to keep using these strategies year after year.
So Elise's impressions are not unique. We've heard these same sentiments over and over again from teachers. Michael, what are you hearing from your teachers?
They are really excited about the professional development and how it's changed their practice. As Elise had said, this is something that's lifelong, but also it's not just about social studies. We've had teachers from all disciplines participate in the professional development, in the Democracy School Initiative. And I think that that's really one of our big takeaways, that these methods and instructional practices are cross-curricular, in the practice of inquiry, practice of discourse, practice of Socratic seminars, the soapbox pieces. Those are cross-curricular. So it's igniting a number of disciplines that are coming together to support a democracy school initiative.
I'm really glad you pointed that out, because the civic mission of schools is about reframing what is our role in schools in general. Right. And traditionally you think of this as the social studies thing, but
That's right.
It doesn't have to be. It fits naturally in a lot of places.
Yep, absolutely.
So, and finally, we talked with students, lots of them. And I'd love for you to listen in to this reflection dialogue between Elise and her students. So let's watch this. It's great stuff.
I think that we are different because we got an opportunity to show people how we view a certain issue in society, and maybe they too can take from that and take action on that topic.
Absolutely.
This whole experience, it made me feel like empowerment. And I mean, like, individually, I think we all think that, because it gives us a voice, and I think that's something that we don't normally get.
Once you are 18 and you're able to vote and definitely do something with this voice that you're sort of discovering right now, what effect do you think that this experience will have once you turn 18?
It's going to help us a lot, because most people over 18 just vote and they don't understand everything. They're not aware of the world around them, what's happening. But like, we're starting this when we're 15. If we keep on doing this and understanding what's happening around us till 18, we would really understand who we should vote for and like do the right decision.
What help, if anything, was the time to talk in class, to talk to a partner, to talk to a group about current events? How did that civil dialogue sort of help you guys in your process?
We used to think of just understanding the topic from our perspective. We never looked at other people and understand what they think. We just if we think something from your perspective, you might really not understand that as you talk to 10 other people and understand what is the majority thinks of it.
I don't know. I feel like when you teach us in class, I feel like it's more just targeting us in general. And then I feel like once we were able, you gave us our own time to actually independently go look into stuff that we actually liked. I feel like it just made me feel like we had a voice, sort of.
Yeah.
I mean, normally being 16, you don't get that kind of thing. It's kind of just overlooked.
Yeah.
So
we can actually start doing something about it rather than just sitting there.
yeah, and I felt like in your speech when you guys talked about petitions and stuff. I mean, I'll be honest, me personally, I did not even think of going in that direction. And I think encouraging people to sign stuff and be more included in the issues that we have today, I feel like it's very helpful.
So now that we've gone through this experience, do you think that you would do it again if it wasn't a class assignment? If you came across something happening in current events that you were really passionate about or you wanted to take a stance on, do you think that you would get on your soapbox out in society?
I think I would, because it wouldn't only be to high schoolers, it would be to adults who might not know about the issue as well.
Yeah. Especially being able to say it in front of even more people. I feel like that's actually something I would want to do.
If it would actually change something and change the topic I'm talking about, for sure I would do it, because it would actually help to change things.
I feel like I try to be able to do something about it rather than just sitting there.
I would try to do it to help people open their minds and see what is happening going on to the world, educating more people what is wrong and what is right.
Well, thank you guys so much.
A big part of the work, too, is to increase students' knowledge of democratic practices and to develop their civic skills. But the very important element is the need to impact their dispositions, their attitudes, their willingness about voting, their attitudes about making a difference, their willingness to jump in and engage in these difficult, legal, responsible civic practices, and to really want to solve these very complex problems that they see to be able to create some change. It's a big lift. And you can see in that last dialogue, the students at Bellflower Middle High School are realizing this vision. Students may otherwise feel unheard, are starting to feel empowered. You're hearing that sense over and over again. And so I'd like to finish our last module with the voices of students. I'll let Les Francis introduce this segment and lead us into the real, authentic voices of the young people, some of the young people in our initiative, what they learned about their community and what they learned about themselves.
The young people who are involved in this program, both in Southern California, LA and Orange County, as well as in Sacramento County, have already demonstrated an interest. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. But they've also demonstrated that they've learned something. They know how the system, you look at the topics that they're talking about, this is weighty stuff. This is important stuff. But they've done the research, they've asked the tough questions. They'll go forward. These are people who are going to make a difference in their community because they're already engaged and they're knowledgeable. I read a quote the other day from a great philosopher, Bill Murray, who said, "It's very difficult to win an argument with an intelligent person. It's impossible to win an argument with a stupid person." I would paraphrase that to say, it's hard to win an argument with a well-informed person. It's absolutely impossible to win an argument with an under-informed person. And that's what we got to do. We've got to have people who are better informed.
I I did my project on college rape, and now I know that what I can do to help others or myself if I ever encounter a situation like that.
Doing my action project on domestic abuse made me realize how many people actually go through abuse in their homes, and now I know that I can make a difference and I can help these people and myself if I was ever in this situation.
From doing this project, I learned that I wasn't really aware of the issues going around in the world, and now I know that there are resources I can go out to and become a part of the change.
One of the things that the Civic Action Program has changed me is to look at the problems in my community more better. Before looking at the action projects here today, had opened my eyes to look at our problems in my community.
Personally, I'm into politics and government, and coming here today made me notice that other students are also. I was always kept to myself because I never knew how other students thought about the situation, multiple situations. It turns out that other students like being active just as me, but I usually just like talking to adults about it because I never thought that students were also, like-minded as me. So it's just a feeling of security, from insecurity to security, knowing that I'm not the only one. That's the biggest form I could put it because personally I always looked into this stuff, but just getting other perspectives of this situation made my thinking more broad.
So we're here today at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library to celebrate. 12 high schools have dedicated 3 years of work to institutionalizing civic learning so that all their students can gain the knowledge and skills and dispositions to be informed citizens. Listen to these testimonials from students, from adults. We really are making a difference, and we're here today to showcase and celebrate everyone's hard work. Because the future of our democracy depends, as you know, on this next generation coming up. And I'm just thrilled to be part of that work and to help others get there too.
I feel great.
I feel enlightened. I feel inspired.
I feel influential.
I feel involved.
I feel educated. I feel powerful.
There's nothing better than to hear straight from young people about the power of this work. And I truly feel that these students are equipped to go out in the world as empowered, informed citizens. This is what it should look like. Our dream is to create these opportunities for all young people across the nation, and not just in high school, but beginning in kindergarten. And as we discussed in the opening modules of this series, it is the civic mission of our school is to prepare students to become effective citizens. We know how to do it. All we need is the will to make it happen. These 12 schools have figured it out, and you can too. So thank you, Michael, for joining us today to share your insights, your experience, and to just show everyone the type of leadership it takes, and it can be done. And you're doing so much to help us spread this, not just across your district, but across the state. We're hoping schools across the nation will emulate what you've done at your school to create the space to make it happen. So it's exciting. I'm excited to have worked with your team.
Wow. Thank you, Michelle. We look forward to working with you, too.
And so as we close this broadcast and this entire series, I just need to formally thank so many people who have joined this effort and committed incredible time, resources, and dedication to making this dream a reality. First and foremost, Robert Joseph, who was the program manager at the S.D. Bechtel Jr. Foundation, who believed in the work and guided us with great earnest and integrity in the very early years of the project. I thank him tremendously. My own Los Angeles County Office of Education Leadership and colleagues, Dr. Arturo Delgado, our LACOE superintendent, Dayton Gilliland, our chief academic officer, Raynette Sanchez, my wonderful director of the Division of Curriculum and Instructional Services, followed by Yvonne Contreras, who became the director after Raynette's retirement. Michelle Biagioni, Sheila Lewis, Anna Whalen, Imelda Wynn at the LACOE Grants Development Office helped facilitate our partnership with the Los Angeles County Education Foundation. Their help was just indispensable. The tremendous crew here at LACOE's Educational Television Network, led by Tyler Cook, that have demonstrated incredible patience and expertise in creating these modules. Great team to work with. Jeffrey Reyna, Annalisa Katakowski, Gilberto Vega, so many others. My own assistant, Karen Leffler, has been by my side all along the way, providing great assistance, boatloads of administrative duties that come with a project that's as complex as this. Ryan Stow, who you've met in earlier broadcasts, has been our civic learning coach who visited each of our schools on a regular basis to provide that support that they needed and to support their work. Couldn't have done this without him either. And finally, a huge debt of gratitude goes to the 12 schools themselves and their school districts. It was their motivation to take on this initiative, their persistence to overcome obstacles along the way, and their inspiration that made the dream a reality. They are the true heroes of this work and serve as role models for other schools, school leadership across the nation. And as I mentioned earlier, our final hurrah of the initiative was the presentation of plaques and banners to each of the 12 schools that officially became the very first California Democracy Schools. I want to close with this last video montage of that day. I want you to look at the energy, the bright faces, the enthusiasm of everyone you see. And I invite you to call upon them to inspire you to take that next step, to prepare the young people in your midst with the knowledge, skills, and dispositions to become the America of tomorrow.